Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Okay, I feel like I'm actually starting to get some sort of crystal ball of how this industry will go. Why? Because we're already there. We've reached EV battery technology. We're seeing very little now in progress. The industry is what it is, at least for this decade, because we are discovering that battery technology research and development takes a really, really long time, and that's just to develop the actual cell. From there, you still have to then go into all the R&D for manufacturing the cell and battery, and then after that, you have to ramp up the manufacturing and then scale up the facilities. Now, we don't know how long Tesla have been working on the 4680 cell, but you can bet that Elon had some ideas for it early on, but perhaps it might not have gone into proper R&D until about 2018, and the energy density we expect won't be up to battery day numbers until about 2025. Now that's about 7 years' time it took to research a cell and get it into volume production with desired specifications. If it takes Tesla 7 years to do that, with over a decade of experience behind them at the time, and all the best engineers in the world when it comes to cell, battery and manufacturing design and production, then yeah, my guess is don't expect anything from anyone else anytime soon. Perhaps the best chance might be QuantumScape, given the years of necessary research they're actually putting into it. However, their outcome, if it goes well, will likely be a more expensive, less energy-dense cell than the 4680, except it's solid state. But Tesla's 4680 will likely be just as safe by then anyway, and cost a lot less to produce. And of course, this won't be at scale until next decade. But hey, maybe it might be better than what the competition have by that stage. Should be, as there are no other signs of them improving either. Of course, even when QuantumScape can make solid-state cells, have they been designed in a way that can be produced in the tens or hundreds of billions of cells? And has recycling them been taken into consideration? Remember, Tesla have to look at this in first principles thinking of how this company can improve this world forever, rather than making a quick profit. But we are a long way from solid-state batteries being produced in volume production. As for the other alternatives, the technology and processes have pretty much evolved to where they are as far as efficiency is going to get. And this is what we have. BYD went in-house with R&D and managed to get about 3% better energy density than CATL's LFP cells. Not a massive breakthrough. The breakthrough was they had better volumetric density, which meant they could place more cells inside the battery and thus increase range. This comes at a sacrifice. Obviously, it costs more, but it reduces the performance and handling of the car. And this is the innovation that all non-Tesla EVs have come up with to increase range. Stuff more cells into the battery. We've reached close to the efficiency we can get with LFP and nickel cells. They've already evolved in their current form factors. Now, legacy autos are trying to work out with large battery manufacturers how to turn the raw materials into batteries at the lowest possible cost in order for them to have a chance to compete in the future of the auto industry. The only way to actually make a real difference on energy density and cost, along with high-speed production, is to reinvent the entire cell and battery. One specifically designed for EVs, and obviously Tesla did. And we don't need another video about all the features of the 4680 cell. And all the other cell manufacturers and EV companies are using the traditional cell forms and chemistries. In other words, expect minimal energy density improvement. But after Tesla already having a battery line up and running for 6 years, the stage at which the legacy EVs hope to start in around 2025 with their own battery partnerships making NMC or NCA cells, just like Tesla's Giga Nevada. Now, Tesla have had 6 years of experience making those cells already with Panasonic, and Tesla have even made several battery and cell manufacturing related acquisitions on top of that. And it's only now that Tesla are actually beginning production of the 4680, but it looks like it's going to take a little time to get the cells right. We may need to produce hundreds of millions of cells until we start seeing some real difference with some chemistry improvements, whilst they refine the process. But it sounds like progress will be made quickly, but it could still take 3 to 5 years or so until we see the progress we expected on Battery Day. Think how long that would take the competition to catch up. This is similar to TSMC's manufacturing abilities and to how their chips have evolved to where they are today. It takes probably a decade. Yes, it's similar to that precision that takes years to refine, which is why you have to start as soon as possible, even if the energy density isn't even as good as the last version. So by 2025 or so, legacy autos are ramping up their cell factories with similar chemistries to 2170 cells, except Prismatic. Now, Prismatic is an easier, safer form factor for production than cylindrical. Cylindrical form factors are better for the actual car though. I think as a result, the Ford Mach-E ends up with less ground clearance than a Model Y. all the competition are pretty much going with Prismatic, which means they will never be able to produce cells as fast as cylindrical production lines. And as for tabless design, well, no chance. This will be one element that will continue to hold back all competition in a massive way. Aside from the fact that it probably takes 3 times longer than Tesla to build said factory in the first place. Anyway, the competition are likely lacking in powertrain and electric motor technology. In other words, very unlikely they'll even end up with the 2017 Model 3 specs, even with their new cell and battery factories, like for like. But that might be about as good as they can get, a 2017 Model 3 level range, which is something, especially if they're able to make a profit, which is possible with perhaps a $10,000 battery cost saving and perhaps a $5,000 to $10,000 price increase, and maybe cutting out the car dealers if they can. And Legacy Autos will likely invest in R&D and improving the chemistry, using less cobalt, and maybe one day reach Tesla's current day 2170 cell energy density and cost equivalent, perhaps by 2030. They won't have any revolutionary dry battery electrode or tabless design and all those other magic items. They might hope that one day there is a solid-state battery available for them, as if it is their saviour. And there probably will be, but it won't be anything close to the 4680 cell. But aside from Tesla, Legacy will pretty much be owning the nickel cell battery market, as in long-range electric vehicles. Sure, the Chinese battery manufacturers do make some nickel cells too, but they still suffer from nickel prices, supply, and it's much harder to manufacture, just like everyone else. The Chinese advantage was just that they had their patent for LFP. It doesn't mean they can compete with Legacy on nickel cells or long-range EVs. They just had this advantage. However, the Chinese EVs haven't been investing hundreds of billions of dollars into nickel cell factories. They're going all in on LFP, which is available to the rest of the world this year, yet they don't seem to be adopting it. Perhaps Legacy Autos did what they're good at, marketing research, and found out they have to be offering up to 300 miles of range, and that was only achievable with nickel. Not only that, any attempt to try long range with LFP will result in terrible handling and performance. That is off-brand for Legacy. They have no choice but to offer vehicles with nickel cells. This will also allow Legacy to position themselves away from the Chinese as the long-range and well-established brands, over the cheap Chinese short-range brands. Although when charging infrastructure improves, Legacy Autos will eventually offer LFP versions, but that may not be for some time, at least at any scale. And Battery Day showed us just how inefficient Giga Nevada was and how expensive it would be, but Legacy Autos don't care, they're going to do it anyway. And I'm sure Elon is encouraging them. Within time, they should be able to reduce some manufacturing costs, but likely going to be left with the old wet slurry electrode process. In other words, there isn't really some magic cheap battery coming for the competition. It basically is about what it is now. The Chinese are under $100 per kilowatt hour for batteries, which was some magic price point, tipping the cost of EVs with ICE, which was so absolutely arbitrary it meant nothing. But we are there. And Legacy claim they can get down to $100 eventually too, which I'm somewhat dubious about. All prices I'm talking about are pre-inflation. I think that as exciting as all these new battery technologies we hear about and results we get under lab conditions are, it's all absolutely moot, unless it can be scaled up to the extreme. This is all about extreme scaling the most. There's so much ICE to replace, and batteries are the bottleneck. So we need cells that can be manufactured at an incredible pace. We're talking 10 to possibly 100 times eventually the speed of Giga Nevada. Yes, there are new technologies like sodium ion and manganese cathodes, but same situation. They're only relevant if they're scaled to the extreme. And only Tesla scales to the extreme. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.